My anxiety is gone right away. No more anxiety. I can just speak.
Private, private system.
I know. I know. It was a zoo down there right now.
It's worse. It slinks all the way to the elevator.
Seriously. Oh
Yeah,
my
I
God.
don't know what they didn't really staff it enough.
They should just let them come and register
People
afterward.
like that. I mean, who's gonna come to steal this?
I know. Who? I
No
mean,
one's coming to
if-
steal the work here.
at like 8 o'clock in the morning, right?
Right, exactly, yeah. Someone got up early, got dressed up.
Exactly.
To steal some education.
Yeah, I would just have them do it afterwards.
No, not really. We have done it.
Where did you come from?
Vancouver.
Oh,
And
okay.
you?
From New York. So,
Oh, nice. Uh-huh.
did you get in yesterday? or-
Yeah, yesterday, and then I got in, I think my flight delays, I got in not until
Yeah,
6
it
o'clock.
sounds like everybody's like delayed a lot.
And then
Like,
the taxi
Peters,
line was
before
like an
doing
hour and a half.
Really?
Seriously,
like,
I was
after a
like,
while.
so we tried to get Uber, but the Uber was
Alright.
$150. I was like,
Yeah, that's like
definitely wrong.
I don't ever take Uber in New York if it's like that. They charge
Yeah, they know it's busy, they just check out the price.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so we find one Uber as $100. Screw
Right,
it, just
at that
do
point,
it.
right, you're so
We're
tired.
hungry, we're tired.
Right.
No, oh,
Yeah,
maybe
it's
my husband
ridiculous.
or
Mhm.
someone
When I go
can
to,
take a picture
I'm in
during
Mexico City part of the year, and it's
a
like
small
7
video for him.
from the airport to the apartment. It's like,
Is it your
so
ethnic
different.
background?
no, I just love it there.
Could we have lunch together?
You know, one of the experiences.
Yes.
It's also a little bit of a backup plan if America turns out to
There's a
not be
break,
kind of
then lunch,
democratic
and then
as
I told my,
likely.
I told my American husband, I said, you know what? Always keep, I will almost keep my passport just in case.
Oh, yeah. If we could
kind-
come here and live here, we would be doing
I said,
it.
there's so many ways that it's a
Come
red
together.
flag for me in your country right now.
No, I
It's
think
like
it's the
every
end
day
of the
you
process.
hear
With
something like
wrinkles?
from Texas or Florida. Those people are
I will text you.
jaded. It's
I
so
will email you.
And they're
Yeah,
the
at the
really
end of the day, I
far
will.
right.
What is the number?
No, it's for like worse than 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I will
It's like all of a
actually,
sudden it's okay to
here's what I'm gonna do. Toward the end of the day, I'm gonna just take your picture and then I'm gonna just email you so that it's in one file.
Yeah.
I was like, back
Yeah,
then,
because it's
they
not
used
like
to shy
policy.
about it.
Right, and it's not like it's
That's-
just like, oh, I
your
disagree
husband
with
was-
you on policy.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, that's one thing. Like, this
But
is
you didn't get
I
the
know.
want you not to exist.
I
Right,
know,
is what they're,
uh-huh.
that's how they are. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's intense.
And I do what we are doing.
I heard from the
like
staff
we're the
this
target of the hate too.
There's a lot of
It's
people
like,
here.
I mean, I can tell how many hate mail
But for that
Hundreds
car.
and hundreds
I got. It's like crazy.
Yeah, I've been lucky so far. I haven't
And I
done
wonder if
anything, but I
they-
know
Oh,
friends of
you
mine.
haven't
found
make
that
your
out.
new
I
Twitter
haven't.
yet?
No, they haven't.
Oh, mine's all.
Yes.
Yes, you're in the right place. Yeah. My name is all for Twitter.
Yeah, they haven't found it yet, but
Once they
friends of
find
mine
you,
have.
oh my God, they say they see shots of blood.
I know, that's
What are the rules in Canada for COVID?
And what do you do?
I'm a
So,
psychotherapist. I'm in private
right now,
practice.
they
Oh, that's
lifted all
nice.
the masks, right? But then like on the flight
Oh,
here,
nice.
like
On
in
the flight, yeah.
transportation and airport,
Yeah,
you
it's
still
nice.
have to
Yeah,
wear a
it's very
mask.
Uh-huh.
But
I
the
like it. So
rest,
you
you know,
sat on the side.
unless you're
there,
medical office.
sleeping, more relaxing.
Pharmacies or
Yeah, and it's nice to like be with students and, you know, talk
Just
about what we
basic,
do.
like,
Yeah.
public
And like, oh yeah, I do really love my
Yeah.
job. Like, this is a good job.
Even
Because
the
I find it very
buses
intense because I'm a psychologist doing that 8 hours a day every day. It's like, I told my partner, it's like, oh gosh, it's draining
Yeah,
sometimes.
no, I mean, taking, you know, my class
I
is 3
saw,
hours.
Yeah.
they
So,
said,
when I started a
when
few
I
weeks ago,
came here, I took it,
you know, 3 or 4 less
and
patients.
the bus was
basically.
next to me.
Yeah.
It
I
was
saw
felt like I was on
people,
vacation.
some
And
people
that
maskless.
makes a difference than
Yeah,
doing
me
that
too.
early shift was really.
But the driver
Yeah,
was
when
so
I get home, we
rude.
just don't want to talk anymore.
Yeah, I tried to.
Just,
I was trying to
Don't
miss
talk.
the
Don't talk, yeah. It's,
and my
the-
partner knows.
bus stop near the hotel, so I tried to remove my bags from the
but Vancouver is beautiful. I really like it.
storage in
really
the
like it.
area,
My
and he
partner's
told
in
me,
Connecticut,
no,
so
you
whenever we
should not
go to Connecticut,
remove
last
your
time we
luggage
went to New York
before you
City,
arrive at
just
the
to go
stop.
see the
I was like,
brothers.
yeah, but I don't know where it is, so I'm a bit stressed. And he said, I cannot drive if you have your luggage on the floor, so you have to put it back.
And then,
Are you deaf? And I was like,
book of
"Oh, sorry, I'm just a bit stressed."
that was some time ago. So, but yeah, I think
So
Kingies
there's
are the
a
most
psychiatrist
You know,
who's,
that's like,
you know, one
I
of
think
our
the big
folks
city
who's
that has to
really
do with it,
involved,
like
and his
sometimes
husband
like
is
big
one of the
city
people.
people are so rude.
Yeah,
And
Stuart
honestly, in
Allison, you know,
Canada
Oh,
and in
no.
is super sweet,
US,
lovely guy.
Is that
people
and
are
his
rude in
husband's
general.
yeah.
Not everyone.
No,
I know, but this is a
But all the
stereotypical.
Yeah,
But I
haven't
think
been to
also
anything in a while.
well, here the border
I had maybe
security
just the
stuff
COVID
were
within 12
really
months.
It's very
smiling
nice,
and
yeah.
friendly.
Right.
Because in
Yes,
okay,
my first.
I know.
it's scary.
Everything in New York is
How many people registered with this one supposedly? Oh, wow, so more than half.
But I think the people also didn't know that the room was.
Yeah, there were people in this different room at Symphony. They some were there with us in Symphony. Yep. You want me to walk up to Symphony? Yeah.
I can go.
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Is that everyone? We go get our chicken.
Yeah, call us if you get lost.
Yeah, go gather the chicken. Have the chicken to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you staying in the hotel or are you staying?
Yeah, I stay in a hotel. Yeah, so
I'm just down a couple blocks. I had an Airbnb and
was it good?
yesterday, no, it disappeared.
Yeah,
So
it made
at-
me disappear.
Yes. Yeah, and so we had we booked our hotel on Wednesday night at like midnight. And but luckily we got in to a place a couple blocks away. My friend is in that one. I texted her like, "What hotel are you in?" Because I was like, I can't research hotels right now because this one it was like $500 a night.
Yeah, when you late, do it.
Yeah,
with the
but I got a
reservations.
good deal. It was pretty much what I would have paid for the Airbnb. I just have to pay for parking. But yeah, I was not happy. It was like I don't need the extra stress. Is there a big Vancouver contingent here?
Hey y'all, I just want to say I'm aware we're starting late. We're ready, but we feel like we need to allow a lot more attendees to come. And as you may have observed, there's a big line. I think everybody's remembering how to do things in person again, so please bear with us. We'll start in a little bit.
It's okay, we all are.
I heard that happened to some people before. It's like they book the Airbnb, pay for everything, but it's,
Yeah, and it was fine. And it said it
did you pay
verified host.
anything?
Yeah, they reimbursed me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
but-
this they reimburse
Yeah,
you.
but like, you know, like
But
a
the
day
stress,
before, they
right?
usually, you know,
Yeah.
they give you the check-in info.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I wasn't getting it, so I was messaging the host, and nothing, crickets, no response. And so
Oh
then
my
finally I called Airbnb, and they tried to get in touch, and then, you know, it was like, but then we were in Vermont at the time driving up, and so we like didn't have cell service, so then they
Yes.
couldn't hear us. I mean, it was like a hassle, but yeah, I mean, usually I have a really good experience
Okay.
because we stayed at
Oh,
one in
look at, yeah,
Vermont.
put a sign, that would be great.
And I only had one other bad experience where I was in Spain.
Oh,
And
that's even worse in a foreign country.
Yeah, so we booked. I mean, it was the place we got into, but the guy was like totally crazed, and he had like the shower door, the glass door had broken, and so there was like still glass on the floor, like he had to have cleaned it up, and it was supposed to include parking. You know, and in Spain, there's no way I'm gonna find parking on the street, right? It's like a tiny little.
Yeah,
It was in
exactly.
Sevilla. And so he's like, "Oh, follow me to where you park." So I'm following him. So, okay, it's at a parking lot. He brings me to like this like dirt parking lot where these like very angry people are. As soon as we pull up, they start yelling again. So it's like,
Should we
my
park
car
here?
yeah. And he's like, oh, it's fine, just give them a turn. So we park. I was like, these guys not gonna let me park here.
Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is, we're trying to figure the lesser of two evils at the moment. I know that we're expecting a number of people still, and I apologize for the confusion. As I said, learning how to do things in person again, I think we've been also overwhelmed with the response. We have a lot of folks signing up for the programs today. So at any rate, my name's Massey, and I am the Mental Health Chair of the Global Education Institute of WPATH. And I thank you very much for getting here, especially as you've probably had to travel and gone up and down the escalator and a few times around the room to figure out where we are today. So I want to start with a land acknowledgement that I think is a wonderful custom here in Canada. And please bear with me. I may not say the names right, but I want to acknowledge that we are on land which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst indigenous peoples, including the Haudenosaunee. If you can correct me if I'm saying it wrong. Piermont? No? Okay. And Anishinaabe nations, and we acknowledge and thank the diverse indigenous peoples whose presence marks this territory on which peoples of the world now gather. And so we come here humbly. And I also come to you humbly because one of the benefits of being the mental health chair for the GEI is getting to work with an amazing international faculty who are going to be speaking with you today. And this is a very challenging time to be doing this work, so it means a lot that y'all have taken your time and put in the effort to get here and to be a part of this training. We have put in a lot of effort over the last few months to pull this together, and we hope that it's going to be a very worthwhile training. I'm curious, how many of you have attended the foundations either live or virtually? Okay, so it looks like about 2/3, 3/4 of you. Well, we're glad you're continuing, whether it's just because you wanted more training or because of certification. And we are going to have about 60% of the program today is going to be presentations, and about 40% is going to be interactive. That's why we have mic stands, and we're going to have some of our faculty running around and trying to facilitate the discussion. We really want a lot of interaction. We sent you a ton of cases, a ton of cases. Don't know if y'all looked at them all. We may get through one case per session. We may get through 3 or 4. Maybe there'll be fodder for you to use if you do presentations back where you live and work. But we have them as options for us to discuss, and they're really useful learning tools. And we want to have as much interaction as we can, but we will not get through all the cases. I can promise you that. Even if we didn't do any presentations today, we probably couldn't get through all the cases. So the other things I want to let you know is we've got a bit of a mixed program. We've got some people live. We have some people standing in because visa problems were an issue here getting into Canada because of the war in Ukraine. They've been inundated with applications. So we have new faculty joining us, and we didn't expect, but are grateful for them stepping up. And we also have one presentation that's going to be a Zoom video. It's only about a half hour long, but it's fantastic. It's Dr. John Strang. And I'll start just by introducing him. He is an international scholar, researcher, educator on neurodiversity, particularly autism spectrum disorders. And he is a neuropsychologist who saw so much overlap of ASD and gender diversity that he also became a specialist in gender issues. So we are thrilled to have his program as part of our training today. And then if you don't have anything on your agenda tomorrow, he's running a full 4-hour program with other presenters tomorrow morning. All right, so I'm now going to ask the faculty to introduce themselves. And I do need to tell you this. I have to run over, for those of you who have done the foundations, you know I do a talk. So I'm going to have to run over and open the foundations course. And then I'll be coming back, but I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Phi, who is going to host. And so, Phi, I'm going to invite you to introduce invite the speakers to introduce themselves, starting with herself. And a lot of you have heard about me. I'll say a little more about myself later on in the program. But again, thank you so much for being here. We want this to be an exciting exchange of ideas and expertise today. And thank you for bearing with us with the registration issues. All right, I'll see y'all later, and thanks. I'll see y'all later.
Okay, good morning. Can I get a cheer? Good morning. Thank you, thank you. So we have our faculty here, and why don't we kind of get our faculty to introduce themselves first, and they'll come to me. Okay, whoever want to go first.
Hi, I'm S.J. Langer. I'm a psychotherapist in private practice. I also teach in the art therapy department at School of Visual Arts in New York, and I'm the author of the book Theorizing Transgender Identity for Clinical Practice.
And I'm Wallace Wong from Vancouver, Canada. I was born in Hong Kong, and lovely to be here.
Hi, I'm Guillaume Harman. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist from Geneva in Switzerland, and I'm happy to be here. And I work principally, mainly with the school system in Geneva, and also a private practice dedicated to transgender youth.
Welcome our faculty, and my name is Phi Sangkansanawinit. I am a faculty at the University of Akron in Akron, Ohio. If you don't know Akron, this is where LeBron James were born and Steph Curry. Okay, so now everybody knows. So we are so pleased to be here, and as Ren mentioned, he's gonna go to the foundation, but we will stay here with you throughout the day. So Wallace will actually start with his presentation first. And again, the presentation combined with the discussion, the cases that you have, that would probably be throughout the morning and in the afternoon. Any questions before we begin? No, so I'm gonna turn the stage to Wallace.
Thank you for having me. And so it's funny that Ren set me up for the first one for the day, because I think this is the most politically incorrect session for this one. When we're talking about culture, language, gender issues all mixed together, talk about race, talking about colonialism, all those things will be quite argumentative. Hopefully nobody's at the end of the day, so I can just dodge after it's done. So, but anyway, I will stay here so you can ask more questions afterward. Before I begin, I think it's important for us to talk about maybe my background. So I think that will help. So my background, I was born in Hong Kong. At that time, it's being colonized by the UK at that time. And then my family, because we are so afraid what the China would do, so we moved to Montreal, Canada, yay. And then we don't speak a word of French, so we couldn't survive. So then we moved to, Vancouver. And then during that time, when I was in the middle of the teenage year, I became a Mormon. And yes, I was a Mormon. And then I served even went to Mormon University, become a Mormon missionary, yes, Elder Wong. And then after that, finally I realized that my gayness would not go away, so I left the church. And then I was in Hawaii for the school, and then went to San Diego for love. That was the worst decision, but turns out to be the best decision later. And anyway, so I got married and then moved back to Vancouver, and here I am today. So the reason why I brought it up, because I think one of us here, doesn't matter what your race or background is, intersectionality is really come intertwined in our practice today. And I think it's very important for us to focus on that. I always talk to WPATH is that there's not enough minority, ethnic, religious issues being addressed, because our client come to us is not just white, middle class, from a suburban. No, many of them, they come to us with many backgrounds. We need to understand that so that we will not give them recommendation, treatment plan that is so genetic, that target for a certain population, and they find it doesn't work for them. So we're going to talk about that, but I don't think I have my slide so my audience can see, please. Yes, right here. So, and then my first slide will be, okay. Okay, let's talk about this one. So this was the history here. So this was a letter written in the 1544. A Portuguese bishop went to the Indian states. Said, hey, your lordship will know that. Just want to let you know the people here, they actually, they grow they go long hair, and with beard, they dress in womanly fashions, they grow their hair long, braided, they imitate, I like the word imitate women's speech because they adopt all the female gesture and inclinations. They marry and receive according to the custom of the land and with other common men, and they live indoor, united commonly in their secret places with men who they have for husbands. So you can see, like, as early as 1544, and actually it's already transgenderism, gender diverse is already long exists. And I will start off with a bit Asia because that's my background, and then we'll go talk about the immigration because that's also my background. But of course, when we talk about intersectionality, there's so many layers. So, but I'm focused on the one that I talk about, and then we'll talk about the clinical issues that may come up. Hopefully, that will be, you'll find it helpful to apply to your practices. So we know there's a history of, very small, gender pluralism being practiced in a different country and cultural groups, and way before. And gender pluralism is a notion that includes all sex identity within the realm of plausible identity, and a lot of time become like quite unusual, marginalized, and fluid identity we're talking about. And the fact that transgender shamans have been accorded status not just in Indonesia, but across the Southeast Asia is a powerful indication of the historical, for many of them still in today. So I think it's very important to know that for that it's already happened way before. But when the colonialism come to our country, they convert us to the Christianity, and all of a sudden, the social system, the social fabric change. So all of a sudden, what we have, how we allocate certain people, certain place, is being really reformed based on the Christian faith. So for example, a lot of time back then in Malaysia, they had sita-sita, and Burma, they had nat kautau. In Indonesia, they had bisu. Hawaiian, they had mahu. And then, so historically in Hawaiian culture, every one person have a role, and from chef to caregiver. In the past, mahu was valued and respected and seen as a caretaker, healer, teacher, and of the ancient tradition, which is very true. When I live in Hawaii, this is the way they live. See, culture is very different. So across Asia, Polynesian indigenous people today, there is severe constriction of gender and sexual purity compared to the 100 of years ago. And all this changed when the Western religion and colonialism took place across different regions. And they arrived of the missionary and the Christian morality result in the emergence of a new moral and sexual order. Homosexuality became illegal, for example, Southeast Asian nations such as Singapore and Malaysia, and when they were colonized by the British. So it's really funny this way because, hold on. It's really funny because like back then, the transgenderism, gender diverse is welcome, honor in our society. Then they change it. And then now, the West people come back, human right, do this. And then they point to us, how come you're so inhumane, so third world? So they repackage it, and then we have to take it. You take it away, repackage and take it. It's like, and then you don't understand it, they start making China there, take it. Right? So that is, see how resentful that we will feel in taking those things. It's all of a sudden, you shove something under our throat that we have to accept it. But we, because 100 years, that tradition is gone, we have no knowledge what that is. It's foreign to us, it's new to us. All of a sudden, it's a Western concept that we have to accept. And when we will not accept, we are barbarian. So homosexuality become illegal, so we'll talk about that already. So current changes today, Malaysia continue to criminalize same-sex intercourse, while Singapore legalized female sex homosexuality in 2007, but they just legalized it, the gay sex too. In, I think last month, the Singapore president said it on the news. Anti-transgender protests also happen right now in Southeast Asia. Protests frequently blame the West for introducing this kind of thing, so you can see. And while homosexuality is criminalized not criminalized in Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia, Vietnam, and the Philippines, and Indonesia, apart from Aceh is a Muslim region. So they are integrated in local professional and cultural life and are accepted as long as sexuality remains unspoken and invisible. So what that means is, not criminalized, but there's still very taboo about that. So anybody from Taiwan here? So since Taiwan is one of the, I think the only country in Asia that legalized same-sex marriage, right? But ask them how many of them they feel safe to get married. It's so interesting. The marriage rate is so small, almost like really rare. So that tells you something. It's like, yes, we legalize, it's okay. But in practical terms, is it okay to do it? And will the society, will your family, will your culture still permit you to do it? I think this is also important because when someone coming out with transgender, it's okay, you will not punished by the law. But when you live in the culture, would that be okay to be your authentic self? So when we develop a treatment plan, it's important for us to think globally, not just so client-focused when we're working with our client who happen to have a multi-diversity background. The Philippines now also do not allow for gender reassignment surgery, but that's a good case happened in Philippines, and that's the guy who sued the government because it's a trans female cannot get married. So, and guess what? She won. So everybody is so happy. Yeah, she won, so I can finally get married. But guess what? The Philippine government said, you can't do that because we don't have a law to change the name or change the sex. So because same sex cannot get married, so that means you still cannot get married even though you're a woman. So all of a sudden, then another lawsuit going on. So I don't know what's going on. We'll wait to find out. So Cefario, so open the window for this, for the recognized transgender individual. That's the case I'm talking about. So a gender recognition bill yet is to be released, and then hopefully that will be able to change the gender marker, birth certificate, and all those things. However, the draft bill only cover for those transgender individuals who have gone through the surgery. And what's wrong with this? Many things wrong with this, right? How many transgender, especially assigned female at birth, will gone through the whole process? So that means you cannot, if they plan to have baby, I identify as a male, that means you still have to take out your uterus and everything in order to be able to do that, right? Think about this. And so it's still quite heterosexism, it's quite cisgenderism, making law for transgender people. So about 80% of Filipino Roman Catholic, and the church teaching is dominated public life in the Philippines, and dominated by conservative moral taught by the Roman Catholic Church. They're very good, right? And the Philippines is also one of the East Asia most tolerant country toward gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people already. And Normica, they're taking steps to ensure the nation legal protection and try to be like penalized discrimination against people who are LGBT. So, but still, 41 transgender people were killed in Philippines between 2008 and 2016. And that is the highest rate in Southeast Asia, according to the Transgender Minority Project. And the Philippine Journal in 2014 found the gay LGBT people, Filipinos, were twice more likely to contemplate suicide as compared to the heterosexual peers. Overall practice will report a higher level of discrimination, stigma, and violence against LGBT people. So let's bring it back closer to home now. So in the U.S., so you can see here when they do the census, they try to find out how many transgender people there. Definitely, they find out quite significant increased number of them, and in which they find predominantly of them happen to be Caucasian, and then some of them may be African American, Hispanic, and then the smaller one is the other race. Now look at Canada here. My eyes is getting really bad. Okay. So, and in Canada here, there was about, overall the transgender here, we're talking about they divided different generation. So you can see by the generation Z compared to the millennium, the baby boomer. So you can see the people coming out identify more and more and more. And I think that anybody here to get the GEI is you see a surge of people coming to get your practice, coming to your office, whether you like it or not. They just show up your door and asking for help. And I always tell my, in my afternoon, we're talking about the children that I work with. We really see the sixth wave of people coming. When I do this 26 years ago, working with transgender people, majority of my client is adult, and adult people to come seek help. And then towards about 4 or 5 years later, then I see the older adolescent to come seek help. And then 4 or 5 years later, I see the puberty, early young adolescents seeking help. And then 4 or 5 years later, I see the young kids that comes to my office, like 3, 4, 5 years old I'm talking about. And then before we know what we're doing about how to handle them, and then all of a sudden, we will have those gender non-binary people coming out. And then before, okay, we kind of get how to help them, and then now we have the gender diverse people with autism coming to seek service from us. So you can see our research is trying to keep pace and coming up, but they just keep coming. And I will see this continue to evolve. And I think having this open dialogue with different nations, different culture, different practices will be very helpful us to consolidate and diversify the way we approach what is coming ahead of us. Okay, so, and then let's talk about the indigenous people in Canada, because that's the country that I'm in. And so the suicide is a leading cause for the injury-related death among children and youth in BC. That's a province that I live in. Indigenous people experience higher rate of suicide than non-Indigenous people in Canada. And 19 suicide deaths, children and youth age of between 10 to 18 in just 2018 alone. 23% of all youth suicide identify as Indigenous people, and 47 of non-binary report self-harm and in the past year. So under the represent, so current the trans community in Canada, transgender people, they make about 0.5% of Canadian population. So I'm talking about 1.8 million people, statistically speaking. But despite the number of transgender clients from non-Western countries are rarely seen in the clinical practice, which is very true. We run a government gender clinic in Surrey. So anybody from BC here? So in Surrey, where I live is like 70% of Eastern Indian and immigrant lives there. So I would expect my office will have a lot of ethnic minority transgender people come see service from us. So we have served more than 1,000 families, but I would say 98% of them are white. And why is that? in a city that live heavily, heavily with immigrant, and yet somehow it's only Caucasians, majority Caucasians, 6 of us. That tells you something is really off-putting. What happened to the rest of the people? That makes us wonder, are they really so good that they cure transgender, or they don't have transgenderism there? So that's something that makes us question a lot. And now, so the transgender people from ethnic minority group have been find the highest rate of suicide. And a recent study in the William Institute find that the suicide rate for transgender people who are multiracial is 54%. It's the highest one, even higher than the transgender in the regular population. And those who are Aboriginal, the indigenous people, even the worst. They're the highest one, 56%. So that tells us is they are really underserved, underdetected, and then we just miss them. We totally miss the boat. So reason for the resistance, let's look at it here. I think it's really lack of role model in their own ethnic minority in community group. So really, like, I can't think of any Chinese, maybe from my knowledge, that they come out as transgender people and being honored by the society. I mean, in any celebrity, they come out as transgender, they will lose a career very fast. So we don't really see that. We don't have that role model. So is many other ethnic minority group. And lack of information, especially for this minority group. And then because many of them are written in English. So I remember I tried to find a Punjabi-speaking a pamphlet just for the Indian family, but I couldn't find any. And that's even funny. So, and then someone say, oh, just give them a WPATH guideline because they introduce so many language. And so I kind of laugh a little because like, it's like, think about it this way, is if we don't trust the white culture, and now you say, you know what, this is English, easy, just in Chinese now, take it. But everything in there is still from the white perspective. It's still white people telling us what to do. Think about it, right? And you accept me, oh yeah, I should get hormone, or I should get surgery. Think about that, right? So they don't really tailor the content, what that culture group may look like, how to work with the elders to make this more acceptable, receivable for them. So the culture factor is always missing. They have it in your language, but it's like white people speak my language telling me what to do. So then lack of resources, they don't know where to turn to and who to turn to, first of all. And then also resources, a lot of times they really think is making for white people. And so high-level stigmatization from their own cultural and ethnic groups. So you can remember for Chinese and for many cultures, transgenderism, gender diversity is very foreign to them. And many of them, they don't even know how to have words to talk about those things. So professional lack of understanding and knowledge about ethnic value and the consequence of interacts of the races of society. Oh, I like this. For example, I have one client, 30-something years old, and then still live with the family, Chinese family, living with their parents. Don't judge us, it's very normal. We do that all the time. I still live with my parents, and I'm 57 years old. So it's very common we do that. So this client seeing a doctor, and the doctor said, like, you know what, if you want to be who you are, you need to move out. You want to go on hormone therapy, you need to move out to be who you are, so that you can be. So we can think about this. It's so easy to Caucasian people. They say, oh, 18 years old, go to college, I convert your room to a study so that we don't ever come back. That is not so true for us. We expect to live with our parents till the day we get married. Even though after we get married, it's very likely that we still live with my parents. You can ask my white Jewish husband. When he married me, he will never know that my parent was still living downstairs from us. And he just learned to put up with it. And here I know, so I feel bad for me, he's from Connecticut. So, it's as white as you can get, right? So, anyway, I know, and then one more joke, and then when my nephew coming down to San Diego to study, and then guess what he will say? Of course, with family, and then you can see my husband's face from green to blue to red. It's like, what do you mean we have another kid to come to our house and it's distant family? But I said, no, you don't turn away family. That's how we do things. So I can see the culture. We're always a culture crush, we and my husband. But I think he learned really good to bite his tongue to make it work. So professional, a lot of time we are focused on traditional model and working with our ethnic groups. I think the example I gave you earlier is a good one. And then professional use a Western value to evaluate the treatment and success. So keep in mind psychology, psychotherapy, psychiatrists, it's still quite Western things that happens. So it's quite foreign to them already. So a lot of time that we come in this, our school teachers, our program teachers, we always using what? Symptoms reduction as a progress treatment. So we focus on doing. How well you do this, how well you do this. But we don't focus on being, how to keep the harmony, how to keep the impersonal peace, how to focus the relationship and inner strength growth. We don't really we don't measure that as a success. We measure the patient you and how check. Oh, you're good, you're cured. You can go next one. So, and then, so let me see where I am. So, monocultural assumptions for mental health and negative stereotype of pathology for minority, the lifestyle, for example, like living with a family. For Asian, a lot of time we tend to be more passive, more timid, more harmony, and we value selfless. Selfless is honor, being honored. So that means sacrifice yourself for the sake of the whole being is noble. Remember that. So when a patient comes to see you, you're asking them to be who they are, So that is not selfless act. That is a selfish act in their culture, right? So what happened to the harmony of society, right? So think about that. So we fail to see the impact of the linguistic factors, environmental factors, and the social cultural factors. And I really want to point out the linguistic factor. This is more than just the language, they can speak with you or not. It's a lot of times they really don't have the language in their culture talk about what is gender non-binary, what is gender queer, what is gender fluid. They don't have language for that. So it's really, and then some they may not be feel comfortable doing that. So many of them will work with ethnic minority. You can see, particularly when we talk about their family, they will like blah 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 talking about no problem at all in their own language. And then once they talk about sex, they talk about English, anal sex. So they just not comfortable to use their own language, or they don't have the language to talk about the sex thing. And then all of a sudden they switch to English. Pay attention to that. If you have an ethnic client and you can speak their mother tongue, you will see talking about mother tongue, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden when you talk about sex or something uncomfortable, they switch to English. The English really sexual language, isn't it? So I think that I would like to focus 4 of them. Of course, there are more than 4 of them in my practice, but I really think this 4 is quite stand out to me. And I hope there's 4 clinical issues that you can take it home and find it beneficial for your practice. And the first one is collectivistic versus individualistic value. The second one, we're talking about minority stress, more like double minority we're talking about. And then we talk about first and second generation immigrants, and then we talk about the impact of acculturation. So let's focus on collectivism and then versus individualism. So collectivism is really prioritize family and group oriented. So interdependent within the group is being valued and emphasized. So you see them, many of them living together, multi-generation living in a house. Like my household, my mom lives there, I live there, and then my sister lived there, my sister grandkid lived there. So it's like a compound we live in, right? But that's very common in Richmond, BC, where I live. Richmond is like, I would say 70% of them are Asian. Happen to be like Chinese or Filipino who lives in that area, which is amazing. But I love it that my office in Richmond, and I love seeing that some of the Caucasian clients, they come from North Vancouver, really like wealthy area, and they never set foot in the ghetto, and then they come to find my office. They always get lost because they never been to my office. All the sign majority is Chinese, and this English sign will be that small, and you don't blink your eye, you will miss it. So it's really see how their comfort zone. But nevertheless, I mean, I'm glad that they make it to my office and have a good sessions. But individualism will prioritize personal goals and achievements. So asserting one's independence is valued as seen as being an indicator of success in the individualist culture. But in our culture, that is not the case. So you can imagine someone who wants to assert their authentic self, to be who they are, authentic. Think about the word, right? It's really like, I need to be different. And how would that set them apart from the group? So asserting one authentic self may be seen as incompetent, incompatible with conforming to the role type of natal sex. So I think this one is very interesting because I have therapists, they say, tell the client, so why don't you just move? You want to be who you are so bad, you can just move. But think about it this way. Let's use in my community, it's like my mom can go around the whole, know everyone, the butchers speak Chinese, the bank tellers speak Chinese. Everybody know each other. That is your community intertwined. That is your support, especially you move into a host culture, you're a minority. You really rely on your ethnic minority for safety, support, and emotional support. So just left that means they have to give up everything that they have. And then they go into a community. And this is also very interesting too, because a lot of times that would tell the Chinese client, you know what, just to be who you are, just leave your family to be who you are. So they left the Chinese community and go into the transgender community. And when they walk in there and open the door, what did they see? Predominantly white people who understand who I'm going through. When I talk to them, why is it important, my family value? They're not being understand what I'm going through. Think about that. So what are we telling our clients to do? What are we setting up to do as? How likely that they will be able to be successful, to be away from anxiety, depression, PTSD, loneliness, all those things, right? So a transgender youth who comes may seen as rejecting the family system and pursuing the personal goal. So a lot of parents, in front of me, they will say like, why my child being so selfish, and why don't they think about the family at all? And so you can see, and I think that when I do the consultation with other professionals, they say, oh, those parents are so selfish. Why couldn't they think about the kids? But when you think of collectivism as a group, it's different because if the parents have to accept the kid, the parents also have to come out to the community. The parent will also be scrutinized. That means the both units have to unroot themselves and move to a new community. And how easy for you to do that? Imagine you move to Korea. You just got a job, minimum pay, but you live in a white community. But you need to come out, but you have to move in the predominantly Korean community who doesn't speak your language. Think about that. Think about how easy that would be for you to do. Think about how comfortable you will fit in. And that is what a lot of time, our recommendation, we suggest our clients to do. So minority stress, and that second one, I think that is very important. So we all know minority stress is they're being stigmatized, and they tend to have a lower socioeconomic status, and they tend to be more likely to be prejudiced, discriminate, the lack of privileges, and they have extra stress, mental health, and adverse health and outcome. And then they have to prove the world, the consumer, financially secure, good mental health, and not on welfare, and which is very true too. So when I moved to this country, my parents always tell me, like, know your place. Like, you have to be successful. That's why, like, if I not be a doctor, my dad would kill me. It's like, if I have to be a doctor in something. I mean, psychologist is not good or not as good. Medical doctor, surgeon, even better. And because they know we have to prove to the country that we come to your country, we are worth to stay here. We have value to you guys. That's why we have to prove that we are here. We're not taking from you, but we are giving back. So my parents always tell us, know your place. When you're in an elevator, don't speak so loud. Don't speak your own language because white people, they don't like it. And that's what I was told when I was young. And so this is the basic minorities of stress with race. Imagine you're also being gender diverse, being transgender. Now we are talking about everything times 2, times 3, times 5. So I like the buffer effect. A lot of times, the buffer effect is a process in psychosocial resources, reduce the impact of the life stress from the ethnic minority, from the minority stress. So that is good, because I remember even when I was a kid, even I know there's racism and there's prejudice out there, but at the same time, I know that my parents will be there for my back. My parents will coach me what to do. I always have a safe place to go to. So that is a buffer effect, kind of like soft landing, right? But for transgender, it's worse. How many parents will say, you know what? Oh, I love you being transgender. Come on, I will tell you how to be transgender. I teach you all those things. No, not in my culture at least. Majority, the knowledge that I know. As a result, they don't have the buffer effect. So what that means to that transgender youth who are ethnic minority, they have to struggle on their own. They have to find way they have to live a secret life. They have to live a life out there what it's like, and they have to live another life, not just in their family, but also in their community, in Richmond where I live, for example. So the psychosocial challenges is double minority status exclude from both ethnic minority. So they feel like they're in the nowhere lands, right? Like I said, come out early, predominantly the gender diverse community happen to be Caucasian also. And they have to choose one community over the other. So this is very tough for them to do. That means they have to uproot the community and move to something else. And let's use another example because I was a Mormon. So if you live in Utah, how many people been to Utah? You're not from Utah, right? Okay, I can badmouth Utah. Oh, I can badmouth Utah. So I used to go to Provo. So it's like a cult. It's really like a cult. It was like everyone is Mormon. Everyone practice certain thing, and your community is everything to you, because where you buy your grocery, where you buy your coffee, everyone, not just you see them today, you will see them in church. You will see them in church conference, and they will watch you just like you will watch them. And that is your whole life. You expect to marry, for me, will be marry a Mormon sweet girl, and then and vice versa, and have lots of children. And but if you want them to live, that is so. Many of them, when I first started doing my being a psychologist, many of them, the gay LGBT Mormon, they were just devastated. Come to my office, the loss, the grief. That is so overwhelming. It's like they lose their 2 arms. They don't even know how to function. They like take a fish out of the water and put it in dry land. And they have to function themselves. They look at value differently, and yet nobody honored that value that they have. And so you can see how difficult they adjust and be able, and the mental health that they have to overcome. So the tension and pressure from family and larger social group, and I think this is very happening. So the larger social group is like, because it's not just me and my family, we're talking about extended family. So like for Chinese, when you go to a Chinese wedding, no boundary. Your business is my business. I like to talk about you. If I'm senior than you, I can talk shit about you and just take it. And that is how it is, right? So I talk about, how come you're not married? You're 40 already. Oh my God, you need to eat. You're so skinny. You are like bone. And so anything that your body image issue, everything, boom, just go out there. But for them, it's okay. That's how they talk about it. So imagine if your family, if you're transgender, if they know about this, you have to go to the family gathering, which happen almost every Saturday and Sunday. And then you also have to go to, and then you imagine if your parents are supporting you. Now, not just they have to, you under scrutiny, your parent under scrutiny, they have to defend you, why I support my kid, right? You think about that. So, and then the internalized stigma. So, of course, a lot of times that they think there's something wrong with me, being transgender is bad, being gay is bad, being different is wrong. So clinician must consider both the client's view on the home, the culture, and their view on gender identity before we give any recommendation. Before you give recommendation, just think about, you can always check with a Chinese family, or not just Chinese, but that means different ethnic group, and say, hey, I think this may be helpful for my client. What do you think? And they will tell you like, oh, no, don't go there, girl, because it's very wrong. And they will let you know. I think that's very good because sometimes I also work with the rainbow refugees too. So we see a lot of LGBT refugees from India, from Africa, from Middle East. And then a lot of time when I want to give a recommendation, I also check with my colleague who from similar region, similar culture. And it's good to do. It's like I think that may be helpful. What do you think? And I think that's very helpful. Internalized heterosexism, internal negative view of LGBT identity, and then internalized racism, internalized negative view of the race and the ethnic identity, and a culturalization model applies to these two community and culture. So what that means is you also need to find out that different people move the country, their culturalization process different. Like my family is still more attached to home culture value. Me, I think I'm 50-50. I'm quite attached to my own, but also attached to the West. But that is a journey. I remember when I was a kid, everything West is better because I was a kid. I remember my mom would box me those Chinese lunch, and then when I go to school, I would flow away. And then I would just eat the boring, the ugliest bologna sandwiches, yes. With the cheese, it's like you slap on it, and it's so tasteless. My mom will make me like 3-cup chicken, like fried rice, all those things, but yet I will throw those away because I don't want to get laughed at. I don't want to get stand out. So I think that is something that we need to worry about. Like the culturalization, it takes me a long time to learn to appreciate my culture and the Western culture to find a balanced view. It takes me a long time to do that. So I think know your clients where they are at culturalization really help you to conceptualize your case. Know where the family at culturalization stage is, help you to understand the family work. So talk about first generation, like my family, like my mom. And so family, I'm glad my mom is not here. So family tend to be more attached to their home culture and socialized primary and cultural ethnic communities. So like my mom is like really the whole day she can go by without speaking a word about English, and she feel fine with that, and she's happy with that. And second generation, and a lot of times that we're more exposed to the Western culture, so we have more cultural connection with people from the Western culture. So you can see how that is. If the kid who was second generation, they more assert themselves. They more want to find the authentic self. They want to come out. They want to go to gay pride parade. They want to put on the rainbow flag and the transgender flag. And then this first generation, they don't even know what that is. You can see how difficult that is to help your client to find the authentic self, to be who they are, and to be able to go through this journey. So it's the first generation versus second generation. So different exposure, to the culture, gender identity perspective, like I said earlier, for China or for some area, they may not really have accurate information about transgender or gender diverse people. And then child asserting their authentic gender identity may perceived by their parents as disowning and abandoning their culture and origin. Therefore, tension, marginalization by the larger social group, family unit, and even internalized shame. So you can see a lot of them, they come to you, your client, they will have a lot of guilt and shame, a lot of cutting, a lot of suicidal ideation because they see stuck. They don't see the way out because like, I'm born in this system. This is my family. I cannot disown them. This is my community. But at the same time, I really have the urge that I want to be happy. I want to be who I am. So you can see the marginalization, tension, the shame, and guilt that happen in front of you for the client. And it's always good to talk about that, the guilt and the shame that your client, especially from their layers of cultural backgrounds. So what is acculturation? It's the process for foreign-born individual and their family learn to adopt the language, the value, the beliefs, the behavior of the new socio-cultural environment. So I think that I like to, let's apply this acculturation model, make it 2 double layers, and then with the view of transgenderism. Here, so this is the borrow from the Berry's model. So, which is what we say is like, if someone who have if the person have the view of on transgenderism, positive, negative, and then the view with their home culture group or ethnic group or even faith group, positive or negative. So if they have a negative view with transgenderism, so a lot of internalized transphobia going on, and also feel negative being Chinese, oh my God, if I'm not Chinese, it's good, then that group, we label it at this point, is marginalization. It's someone who is positive with the transgender community, but quite negative with their home culture, ethnic culture, or home or faith culture. So then we call them assimilating. So they try to assimilate into the transgender community. And then if someone who have negative view on the transgender community, but more positive view with their home ethnic and cultural group, then we call them separation. So this one, they try to separate from the host culture and more just bubble themselves into their own ethnic home and faith community. And then, of course, we want them to be the best part is integrate. They will have both positive. And kind of if you know this, so kind of like we know where your client is and how we can help them to move to the integration. That would be ideal. So the potential acculturation strategy. So assimilated adolescents, youth will come to see you because majority of my clients, children and youth. So many of them, they challenge the family norms and cultural expectations. They say, Mom, I want to come out. Mom, I want to be who I am. Mom, I want to dress up like whatever. So adopted roles and behavior, the LGBT community. So all of a sudden, they want to carry the rainbow flag or transgender flag or different kind of gender diverse flags. Strong need to validate self-concept and seek validation from family. And they tend to distance themselves and limit contact with the home community. So they say, okay, this is very community. So this is very true. So majority of my clients, transgender female especially, so they will not tell their family. They will hide in closet, I mean, they have their friends. They have transgender friends, they just don't tell them. So they hide. So when they come to apply university, grade 12, they will apply somewhere as far as possible. Why do they do that? And then they come out. A very smart move in some way because that they feel like, hey, now I'm safe, so Mom, take a little bit, bye, because I don't need the system anymore. I have my own system. It's quite good. But a lot of times, some of them, they come back with problem is when they go in the new community, they never really been to. They experience a lot of loneliness, isolation, a lot of adjustment. So if they are also on the on the autism spectrum, you can imagine even worse, right? The black and white thinking, everything will be good, all those things without every contra information tend to be more challenging for them. So you can imagine how difficult that is. So let's talk about the separation of the separated adolescent in the 4 models that we're talking about. So this one is like the primary invest in the ethnic identity, so really close to their home culture. Maybe stuck at the identity confusion stage, so they want to figure it out, try to like have different words, different way to explain how they feel. Greater inability to disclose the gender identity, of course, because they live in their home community, cultural community is their main support. May experience greater internalized transphobia and feeling of isolation, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, cutting, all those things. And may feel the need to separate from the LGBT community due to fear of shame or exposure. So, I mean, unfortunately, I do have some clients that, I mean, they know who they are, they want to be who they are, but at the end, they quit session with me because just giving up their family is too big. So perhaps sometimes you think about maybe before I help my clients to be who they are, first of all, let's build a support system. Let's help them to build a community that they can have. May not be perfect, but they have an alternate place they can go to. Then we can talk about how to help you to be individualistic, to be yourself, right? Think about it, because we ask them to take something away, we need to give something back to replace it. You cannot ask me to give up something because they have big function in my life and you don't offer nothing for me to replace it. And how can I take your recommendation seriously? How will I see that will give me happiness and make it work, right? Next one, marginalized. So this one is exist in the marginal space in both communities. So this one's negative of both of them. So they have negative view with transgender community, also negative view with their own culture. So may avoid and feeling uncomfortable in both community, withdraw from school and work. They don't want to do anything. They have very little social interactions. So those the one that you tell them, oh, why don't you go to a group? They will never go to a group. They will never go to a group. So may have limited access to community service due to language barriers. So next one is integrated. This one is the best one. Is they are more aware of difference between two cultures. They have great desire to bring two cultures together. They see both cultures have positive and negative, and they're able to put a balanced view on both. And more access, then they're able to access social support and network that they see fit. I think that is that is the ideal treatment goal that we want to bring to for our clients. We need to understand they have unique challenges. Ethnic minority group, youth struggle with establishment their authentic gender identity. Identity may be incongruent for both norms of the home culture and the host culture. And negative stereotype images of ethnic minority, Asian being passive, for example, within the Western LGBT community may lead to the client feeling as though they must distance themselves from the ethnic group. And the adolescent client on the parent guidance may be at different cultural state. So let's talk about the second point. I think that's important. This is especially for clients. There happens to be, I just use trans male client as trans female client as so they will, I mean, when the culture telling us what will be better culture, the Western culture, am I internalizing my culture is more inferior. So for a lot of trans female clients, now they can change. Now they can be who they are. So guess what they want to have? They want more than just top or bottom surgery. They want to look as white as possible because that's the beauty code. What is considered beautiful? Blue eyes, blonde hair. Sorry to offend some, right? So, and then they want to be like, they want the skin as fair as possible. They want their nose as pointy as possible. And why is that? It's not that they're not beautiful, But that's what culture telling us. That's Western culture telling us what is beautiful. If I know that I'm being a female is already a minority group in society. Now I'm coming as Chinese trans female. I want to be I need to work double hard to be accepted. Because I want to be loved, just like you guys. I want to be wanted, just like you guys. I want to deserve the happiness in Canada, just like you guys. And I know my shortcoming. Think about that. Okay? So, and then the adolescent client and their parent guardian may be a different culturalized. This one is so important because I don't want you to think just because your client is Chinese, Japanese, then you say, oh, just find a Chinese or just find a Japanese therapist. That will solve the problem. No, you have a lot of value. Because you can, remember I talked about they come to see you, the family may be on the first generation, that your client may be more Western second generation. The client, the youth may hate to have a Chinese that who will buy into the parents' view. The parents may hate the Caucasian one because you're too liberal. You are the one telling us what to do again, colonialism, right? So think about, it's not just about who to match. I think it's about how well you're able to understand the culture, how much you can offer, and how well the family accreditate what you're telling them. Because if they accreditate you, things that you tell us will be 10 times easier than other people telling them. So that process takes time to establish a trust, and they will asking questions about testing your value. They were very subtle, the Chinese very cunning doing this way. Okay, I can say that. So it's like, oh, are you married? Oh, what is the name of your wife? They want to know you're a gay or lesbian, right? They ask you those things right away. And then they judge you by the way you dress. Oh, where do you live? So very subtle, but they in their mind calculating. And it's like, the score, ooh, too white, right? So they do that. So I think that in the beginning, it's really good to open and let them know your view. I think it's not about your race that you bring to the room. It's your view. How you able to perceive the culture, how you can help them to bring this together. That will make it work. Your race, yes, that will be on the surface. But when you're able to communicate that will be, they will accredit you. You know what? This person can understand what I am going through. It doesn't matter first generation or second generation or third. So they see transgender as a very Western society issues. So this is very true. So when we did a research on the Chinese parents in terms of accepting their transgender kid. So a lot of times that the Chinese people, they really think that they blame, we'll call the blame on the West. They really blame the Western culture to make their kids LGBTQ to spirit. So they really blame the culture doing it. So many parents, they tell me, they see the gay pride, the sex education, having those like SOGI, all those like gender diverse thing, education, they really think you are being imposed on them. It's shoving down the flow. It's just like the way they see 100 years ago. And on top of it, a lot of times that I think that many parents will tell me like, I wish I didn't immigrant to Canada. Because if I didn't immigrant to Canada, my kids will not be transgender. My kid become transgender because of Western culture. Look at that, two men kissing on TV all the time and it's okay, right? So they really bring that, if I don't bring my kids here. So I do have parents, they send their kid back to China because of that, just to untrans them. Because they think the Western culture really toxic their kid. So unfortunately, there's how profound they believe in this. And they fear losing their cultural value and they accept the Western view on transgender issues. So they really see that as too liberal, too progressive, and contradictory and challenging the traditional cultural value. And then I see that I see it rather than a threat than a solution, and which is very true. Because when my family moved here, they give up everything. and they moved to this. I mean, many of them, my client, that the parent, they are like surgeons, they are lawyers. They moved to Canada, they are custodian, they are factory workers, with minimum pay, and that's what they do. And they will sacrifice, do this for their children, and but they give up everything. Yes, okay, but what they don't want to give up is who they are inside, who their identity is. That is priceless to them. A lot of times they see it when you ask them to accept the transgenderism. It's like challenging the core value to them. So acknowledge that, honor that, bring it to the surface. That must be difficult for you. It is important for them to know, because we are asking them a lot for them to support the transgender kids. And we need to let them know we know that. So in the West versus the East, so the transgenerational trauma is that all of a sudden it's like I said, the transgenderism take away from us, and then repackaging. Now we take it, and then we recommend, this is it, you have to take it. So all of a sudden they also, just like deja vu all over again. It's like, it's just like the white people come to our country, convert us to be Catholic, to be Mormon, to be whatever, and then abandon our cultural practice, embrace that because that's better, and then now they take, okay, you have to take everything in it, including the LGBT issues. And so become like the authoritative Caucasian person telling them what to do, what's the right thing to do. So think about that I'm higher status, just like colonialism, and you are lower. And then therapists, even higher, because that's how Chinese value you guys. So you're double the authority, telling them what to do now. So think about this, right? So it's very important. I remember that when I was a Chinese, raised in Hong Kong, at that time, so we really know our place. It's like, for example, like we see like that in the same class, we see the Caucasian kid in certain area, the Chinese kid, different places. In the 70s, they will have a sign saying that like the park is only for white people. No, they said dog and Chinese cannot go into the park, only for white people to go to. And yes, in 70, we have something like that. So you can, I know my place since I was young. I know who I am. I know what I'm supposed to be when I was a kid already. So you can feel that how suspicious they too was the Western approach, and they feel powerless, and they become, therefore they resist what we recommend for them to do. The residue effect of colonial trauma is like deja vu all over again, that including the indigenous group of people. They feel resentful, they feel inferior, they feel subordinate all over again. And they're all of a sudden colorful and beautiful, like I said earlier. And that's also true as I work with some Eastern Indian transgender people. They always say, oh, don't expose to the sun. They cover them up as much as they can. Because if you want to be transgender, you want to be beautiful, you need to be white skin, as white as possible. And then the family in separation or marginalization, so experience loss of control and feel their cultural value being attacked and undermined by the condition if we don't know what we are recommending. If we don't do the relationship, cultural, address the root, address the loss, suspicion and vary the condition that appear to be too liberal or too progressive, they may will the condition, opinion, suggestions, we become the Western propaganda, target their children, and may tend to bias source reinforcing negative worldview. And I want to talk about Western propaganda. So I think about 10, 12 years ago, so Vancouver area, so we're trying to have the school district implement the LGBT transgender inclusive policy in the school setting. So that was like the news every day talking about it, how controversial that is, why that is, that of course the religious groups saying about that is like privilege the LGBT people, all those things. So I was asked to be one of the experts to go to school board and talk about why it is important. So when I went there, I would say like that must be like 150 people demonstrating outside and holding a sign. And they were against the school having those policies. And many of them, they're the faith group too. And embarrassed to say, 99.5% of them are Chinese. Oh, think about that. Where did that come from? I don't see them in my office when the kids are transgender, but I see them on the street against this. Something is really off. Just think about this. What we are teaching here, what we are helping here, is not touching here. People suffering here, people dying here, we don't even know. And so it's a wake-up call to me. It's like you can imagine that is a Western propaganda. We are trying to make the kid trans because we want the school to have the transgender inclusive policy. We are shoving something down their throat. That is something that taking their value away, the way they see it. So it may turn to biased source of reinforcing negative view, and then at risk of becoming more isolated and a more insulated, so more cocoon into the community. Go back to where they think is safe. So I think like I said earlier, so matching the therapist is very important. So important for the clinician to match the therapist and the clients and the family, take into account the level of culturalization, the culture value, the worldview. All these are very, very important. In my opinion, that is the groundwork. When you do the groundwork well in that way, the rest will come a lot easier. So clinician may encourage, our Western background may have a bias towards individualism and unknowingly impose their view on their client, like the one that I told you earlier, tell the client to move out because you need to be who you are. So a client may encourage more independence than the client psychologically ready for. The clinician could create further disruptions in the family system and cause greater distress for the client. So you didn't know that we are such a healer, and yet we can do more harm than good sometimes. So the benefit of matching is like therapists with similar belief and value and perceive it more empathic and supportive. They give you more credit and decrease the likelihood of premature termination by the family. And this is even more important. Think about if your kid happen to come to see you, they are really at the mercy of their parents to bring them to your office. If you don't do well with the parents' work, the family work, even the kid wants to come back, they can. How can they drive to your place? How can they pay for your service, right? How can they consent to some of the treatment goal that you gave them? So increase the likelihood family will be open to the evidence-based assessment and treatment, and clinicians serve as a model and how to gain more understanding and communicate with and seek support with and in both community. So you are not the clinician anymore. You are the worker. The worker, same level, same power, as much as possible with them. So they will see that in this way, that the threat is being taken away. Provide opportunity to connect family with others and similar cultural background with transgender youth. And this is very helpful. And so this is one tip so a lot of times that when your youth want to come up to their parents, before they do that, ask them to practice it with a family members that they think is safe. And do that first. Do that 2, 3, 4 of them. Why is it important? Because imagine, many of them, I told mom I want to come out. I start sobbing and crying. I'm so emotional. My parent asking, why? Why did you feel this way? Who taught you this? Must be Mary, make you trans. So I just shut down. I couldn't say anything. So 5 minutes, my coming out drama is done. But the family tear apart. But if the kids come out to the aunt, to the auntie, to the uncle, to the sister, guess who will be the buffer effect? They will be. They are more rational. They know mom and dad better. They will the one talk to them. Oh, I heard Jamie just came out. Oh, yeah, this is that. But you know what? This is okay. Let me tell you that this will go way better than the kid. I am trans. Take it or leave it, right? No, it doesn't. So you can think about So do that. If this is worth your money today, have them to go out, do all those things, build the support, build the buffer effect, so your client will not end up homeless. Your client will not end up locking himself or herself or themselves in the room forever because they cannot communicate with their parents anymore. They don't see eye to eye. So, okay, where am I? I'm sorry. I love talking about story. I just love talking. So, provide opportunity to connect family. So that's the one I talked about that already. Okay, go next one. So, conclusion. So, I think I hope that you take with you every individual is unique and generalization. What I'm talking about is just a glimpse of transsectionality. There's so many cultures, so many different faiths, so many ethnic groups that I'm not familiar with, and I'm still just learning as much as you guys are here today. And through the culturalization process between the youth and the family is very, very crucial because that is the background what you're doing. Matching therapist, counselor, professional based on the culturalization process of both parties can really make treatment a lot more effective. And then also examine our own cultural bias. We all do, even though me, talking about this here, I do have my cultural biases. And aware of your privilege and the authority that you hold. Keep in mind that when ethnic minority immigrants see you, especially if you're Caucasian, you already have the above them already. And if on coming, you're a doctor, so you're double, twice, 3 times more authority over them. And really use a systematic approach as much as possible. And we need to, and it is not unusual for extended family members to be included, like come out to the aunt, bring your aunt to therapy. Let me teach you about what it's like to be transgender because she is more likely to accept it. And give her all the script and everything, information, books to read. Then you come out, auntie will have your back. So thank you so much for having me today. And we have cases. So we did have some cases. So I think we only have one case we can go through first, so sorry about that because we start really late. So case discussion here. Fernando is 18 years old, and you have met Fernando for 2 sessions for self-harm, anxiety, and depression. So during this session, she came out to you that she is trans female, and Fernando moved to Canada from Philippines when she was 5 years old, and along with her parents. She told you that she has a 20-year-old sister and parents who are devoted Catholic. Both parents are working at and Fernando's father is the chair of the person of the Filipino Society Club. Yay! So Fernando wants to come out to her parents in her next sessions with you because she's fearful about the outcome. She recalled the parents making negative comments about LGBT when they were watching TV. So, maybe anybody want to talk about, like, let's say, what are the basic background work that we should do? No pressure, but it's discussion like among peers.
Where in Canada? Because I think actually one of the assumptions we've made in this is that all Western cultures are the same. And actually I think that we actually have smaller cultures within.
So true.
What you were talking about westernization actually applies to North American culture.
Mm-hmm.
So we come from New Zealand, and one of the things that we were talking about actually.
I served my mission in New Zealand.
Yeah. We have a hybrid between a collective and an individual.
Yes.
Who were formed by
Yes.
So it strikes me that actually this is going to be very different whether someone's in Vancouver versus whether they're in Montreal and got that francophone equivalent, whether they're somewhere very different.
That's very true. So just in Vancouver too, if you live in Vancouver is one thing, but if you go east a little bit, Abbotsford, Chilliwack, those are the Bible Belt area. Those are areas that is like very, very different. They look at LGBT issues. Just hypothetically speaking, because just for this case live in suburban area in Vancouver. Okay, just hypothetically.
And you know, as you see this microphone around the room, so if you need a microphone, let me know, or you can go up in the front as well.
Okay, go ahead.
It says that she has a sister, and so I would actually probably ask about her relationship with her sister and if she's had this conversation with her sister or come out to her sister yet, and see if that's something she might want to do first. Just, you know, and if her sister is more conservative, like her parents are Catholic, things of that nature. And then also asking like what Catholic church they belong to. Are they Vatican I, Vatican II, so on and so forth? Those would be some of the questions I would ask.
Very good. I agree because like the system may be the one who can provide the buffer effect. Very good. And then the second one is even Catholic Church. They have like some area, some Catholic priests may be more like understanding and liberal and progressive than some. So yeah, I do have like pastor come to my sessions sometimes, and I will have priests come to my sessions sometimes, knowing that they are more accepting, so that they, when they talk to the parents, may be more powerful than me telling the parents what transgenderism is all about. Very true. Yes.
I would want to know, since she's 18, is she going to college? Does she have somewhere to stay if there's a break with the family? I know we want to integrate, we want to keep the family together, but if there is even maybe a temporary thing, I want to know, is she in danger of being kicked out and having a safety issue?
Yes. Having a backup plan is always, always important because you don't want your client, yeah, I came out, but next day I'm on the street, right? That is very, very important. So I think like coming out is not just coming out. It's like there's a lot of preparation ingredient put in before you come out. What if things go south? What are we going to do? How are we going to help you, right? Who can you stay temporary? Will that affect your schoolwork? So how do you go to school next day if you live in your auntie's house who live in 30 miles away? So all those things you need to talk about before, because like you want to minimize the damage and the impact as little as possible when you work with your client. Or if you know the impact is great, at least the client will safer when they know there are backup plans so that they can turn to.
You guys hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The next session would be fast for me. I usually talk about doing a lot of pre-work prior to that and discussing like bringing up someone in the news or a celebrity that we've seen come out and sort of like do a lot of front loading on the educational piece. So even before you come out, and just to slowly like parse out education in like little bite-sized pieces that parents can hear without necessarily, I don't think a client's ever included me in that process, but so that's like we do it over time.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I address that.
Yeah, if in their culture group there's something who came out before them and then are really well known, I think is yes, use the good example and let them know how productive citizens they can be, how independent they can be. Every parents, I think even Chinese, doesn't matter what parents, they love their kid. They say no to us, it's not that because they're being asshole. It's because they love their kids so much that they really think this is going to damage their kid. That is where they're coming from. Thank you. Yes.
Oh, just maybe to add on that comment, I always try to know what the parents know, what's their opinion, and what's around like in the society to find the parents some help, because it's not only the child who transition, it's the whole family.
Yes.
So if I prepare all that in advance, it's easier with the child.
Good one. Very good. So when this is not this is just the way I do it, but we can all do it different. When we do assessment with children and youth, I always have a session with the parents alone. I always do, because I want to know what they think. I want to know where they stand. If I'm going to help them, I need to know what their worldview is. I need to know their level of understanding, what kind of misinformation that they have about the transgender people. I need to know. So that's important, yes.
I'm thinking about how the father is the chairperson of this club, is in a position of great influence. And for most parents do love their kids, to talk to the person, to get them on board, and not only could you help your kid, you're in a wonderful position to do that, to change. A lot of parents are afraid of what's life going to be like for my kid, and this person is in such a privileged position to be able to start putting change into effect within the community. I think it would be a wonderful thing to talk about, as part of the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's good. Able to helping like how influential you are. If you be able to accept this, that will be like a role model for the community. But I think that that's a really good point. I also want to emphasize like how much that means he will have to lose when he accept the kid. So I think that is good. If we're able to do it, that would be wonderful because this person go to meeting, look at my transgender kid. I'm proud of who they are, right? But think about a lot of time, at least I ever remember when I come out from my family as gay, and then the shame and guilt, and then my parents think like, how am I going to tell other people? How am I going to face other people, right? So I think that is a good goal to aim. If we can do that, that would be very good. Yes.
Leads into something I was going to say, that I would be curious to know where the parents work. Are we talking, do they work in a culturally boundaried kind of part of the city, or a business that they constantly get reminders about how they should be as Catholic Filipinos, and that would have a real impact? Or are they getting other messages from other kinds of cultures, some that they definitely may not agree with?
Yes.
And the second thing I wondered a bit too, which I would probably ask the client, is it possible that there are some signs now coming forward within that child's behavior or some of the way they respond or talk about things that maybe, this is hopeful, maybe the parents were sort of seeding what's going on when they started making disparaging comments about LGBTQ2S+ communities from things on TV. Was it that they were really against it, or were they just going, what if we say something? Maybe our child will start talking to us. I don't know that's entirely true with a Filipino family, but just it was something that came to mind.
But I think there's a lot of value what you're talking about too. So knowing about what they exposed to, like how them to form the value of the host culture. What is it like? Are we being oppressed and suppressing and being shuffled the view down to us? Or you know what? There are some shared value that I value in their culture that speak quite well, because that may change the worldview, maybe more liberal and maybe more progressive, more open-minded to accept a different perspective. That's true. Yes. Yeah, good.
It would probably also take some time to explore their gender identity with them,
Mm-hmm.
to help them develop the language that they need to use,
Mm-hmm.
communicate how
Yes.
they feel and how they understand themselves to
Yeah.
their family, their sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm also thinking this is a person with a mental health history and a tendency towards self-harm. So it might be useful also to work through how they might respond if their parents are
Mm-hmm.
something
Yes.
from an emotional perspective, and develop a plan with them, some tools and skills to help them manage anxiety, depression, shame, guilt,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a tendency to manage that through self-harm.
Yep, definitely. That's a good point too, because like giving them language to talk about it would be very important, and giving them the language able to, hey, how do you know woman? What's the woman definition? What is it like woman being valued in your society? I think that would be very, very helpful. Yes, sorry.
Thank you so much. So actually, sometimes countries, legislature, the society, the religion, the cultural effect, that also influence parents' opinion.
Yes.
Because that happens in my and in some of my, trans friends' life also. So most of the time we have seen that parents are worried because they think that society is not going to accept.
Mm-hmm.
Countries, there are punitive laws, and so there are relatives. So most of the time it is very, very much influenced by other, community, culture, laws and all these things. And here this case is something, it gives me 50-50 kind of a chance, like it can be like parents have some positive thinking in my mind or some negative in their mind as well. For example, you were telling that, yes, they are, the parents is associated with this Filipino society club, and at the same time both of them are working. So in some cases I have seen if parents are working, they are more open to listen and learn.
Yes.
And if they are associated with some big society and all, that also can be, assessed, if that can be another way to approach. And also, like as another friend was telling that it's not that Catholic culture always, defames or discriminates. There are some plus minus points also. So I think an overall assessment is very, very much important rather than taking an opinion that okay, parent might be very negative from the very beginning. I think a close heart-to-heart conversation with the parents also can be very useful. Thank you.
Very true. I mean, don't make assumption. No, because some parents, they can be more, I have a positive will or have some language for that already, right? Yes.
So I'll just add to that. We could also look at parent support groups, because when you as a practitioner know about the parent support group, then they become the bridge between the child and their parents. And this is a very good case where, if you have to build that buffer, not only in the family, but in the workspace that family is going to. And that is where maybe another parent who speaks the same language, has the same kind of a culture, when they talk to them and talk about not only accepting the child, but reassuring the parents that there are a lot of things that cannot be said. A parent would not say it in front of the child, may not say it in front of the counselor also. But when you have a heart-to-heart, a parent-to-parent talk, and the parent saying, okay, your fears are valid, and your concern of what your relative will think, that is also valid. And let us start working with what is best, and maybe move it like that. That has been my experience, that works better. Yeah.
That is so true. I remember when I came out to my mom, and then my mom was hysterical, crying, won't talk to me and everything. And then it was the outside the family system, Mrs. Eva, is a family friend. She was the one able to talk to my mom, explain to her everything, and make it easier for her to come to see it differently about this. It's not me forcing it. It's not Canada forcing it. There's just a different way to look at it. So it's important, yes.
One of the other elements I want to know is how long they've had this gender identity, and actually what other steps they're taking to affirm it. Because the last thing I want to do is potentially damage familial relationships by jumping on something too soon, when actually this might need to hatch a bit more prior than that. And actually I think I'd be doing damage clinically if I did it at that stage, if it only really come up at that point and hadn't.
Yeah. That's true. What if the kids just happen to be gender non-binary later on? They find out different, right?
Or even
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, yes.
I'd be curious about the current role that she perceives having in the family, and whether she anticipates that the family is going to see a change in the role and what that person contributes because of this coming out.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, very good point. So I think we're going to that last one because of time. We need to move on to the next presentation. No, go ahead. You're the last.
Sorry, 40-something as opposed to a youth, per se, who came in, well, she didn't come in, we did teletherapy, but she was definitely confirmed, she knew she was transgender, but her family, everyone in her family, mother specifically, was not accepting and would have very strong reactions. So she went back and forth, and for a while, I appreciate this because I wasn't factoring in so much the ethnicity because it was a Hispanic family, but I was thinking the mother is just, narcissistic or whatever she was. But it's helpful to know this, but this person is currently not attending therapy because she kept running into this wall of, she knows who she is, but she felt like she'd have to give up her family somehow, and it was too much for her. So I don't know where she's at right now. She's still kind of going back and forth, but I think this happens a lot. And then I was going to ask you if you've had any experiences of how do you resume treatment, or do they come back sometimes, or what do you do if they don't? I mean, I guess there's nothing you can do, but.
Yeah, I think different in my setting, because if a private practice setting, there's not much I can do, because they just don't come back. In the government setting, if my clients is really, really unsafe, and have a lot of things. So I will maybe able to like, maybe I need the social system to help me through a little bit. But be careful when you use that card. Because whenever we tell the people that social worker, that means they're going to take your kids away, right? So that should be the last resort. But I would consult with them. If there's something that I need to document, start documenting because my client's not unsafe and there's no way to work it through and my client's safety is at risk, then I may start to think about that card.
I appreciated the parent group idea too.
Okay, yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
So, Dr. Wong, would you like to know fun facts about me? So I am also Chinese, although one might argue that I'm not because I was born overseas in Bangkok, Thailand. So internal calculator that you were talking about, I've seen that a lot with my parents and relatives. Anywho, so we are now going to have a break. Yay! So we do like a 10 minutes, 12 minutes break, and then we'll come back. Okay? Thank you. Okay. Yes. Outside, I think. Yeah. Because I think John Strand